Hi guys, welcome to Robin Hood Diaries this evening. Let's just get right to it, huh? Thanks for joining me. Hope you're doing well. Tonight was previewed nightmare excursions, actually more like seasonal vacays that my evil stepfather and mother would drag me on as some sort of seasonal ritual. Holiday, and then whatever the hell these trips to Mexico were. I think they were summer vacays or whatever. So the context is my stepfather. Now, when you get my book, those of you that are getting it, you will have a much more well-rounded idea of what the man I'm talking about. His chapter is about 4 pages long, called The Devil. So that gives you non-reader whatever's people less of a context. But so I'm going to be a little topical on kind of who he was. Ugh. Okay, so my dad, my mom, oh good God, my mom's with this guy, whatever, common law marriage. Oh my God, since I was 8 until I was like 16 or whatever. So part of the ritual of this nightmarish relationship throughout my childhood and teen years, earlier on, was to go to Ensenada through Tijuana. This was also part of, I'll give you like kind of an intro, like there was the Christmas ritual of getting up at 4 o'clock in the frigging morning every Christmas morning to pile into his BMW to drive to Mammoth. One of these trips involved his, a little complicated, his son and daughter. So I do have a stepbrother that is not Mino. His name is John. And I have a stepsister named Chris. They were a few years older than me. They had to endure a trip to Mammoth and they were spared the Ensenada trips. A little bit more about my stepsister Chris at the end. Or somewhere. So the seasonal, so the Mammoth thing, oh my God, you guys, whatever, like, oh my God, a week skiing. I'm a city boy. I wasn't really much into skiing. I had to do whatever he said. And so those were a nightmare. I mean, going to Mammoth, like, so obnoxious. Like, I would be in a restaurant, I remember once, and my mom remarked on, like, how good the bread was, before they bring your meal and why. And I sort of riffed on that. I'm like, yeah, it's really good, like, blah, blah, blah. And he whips around at me and says, you only said that because your mother said it. Gives you some idea, okay? This is a surgeon. He's a periodontist. Like when the dentist says, oh my God, I can't help you anymore, they send you to a periodontist. So goes right in, surgeries only. All day long? Whoa. Anyway, readers get a lot of that. And then there's a lot more of that coming up in my book, after my next book. So there's these rituals. So Mexico was one of these rituals, but not really. It was Baja. And going through Tijuana. Oh my God, what do we do this 3 times? And these were without my stepbrother and my stepsister, just the 3 of us, which was always a nightmare. I'm sorry, one trip my stepsister and my stepbrother came on and they never went on another. We made at least 3 seasonal trips to Ensenada. They came on 1. That's all oh God. So they came on 1 and the picture shows like nice resorty areas of Ensenada, in my preview. No. These were like these rentals that you would get on the beach. Not a cabin, but 2 clicks away from one. And so we would go there, and this time, first time, was with my stepbrother, my stepsister. And again, his oppressive nature, you'll read it in the book, but just absolutely just depraved. The man was depraved, absolutely brilliant intellectually, and just completely fractured everywhere else. I remember the earliest things I remember was in Ensenada at the dinner table, and I must have been, good God, you guys, 8 or something, and we were in this cabin on the beach, and I said to him at the table, I said, I noticed when you talk and get enthusiastic that your eyes widen, and he looks to me and goes, so what? Again, get a load. So these trips to Ensenada obviously had to go through Tijuana. That's always fun, or I don't know, I haven't been down there since the 70s really, so I don't know. But it was lots of fun. So you get through TJ. So I don't know what Tijuana is like right now. I'm speaking completely out of context. This was 1970s, early, mid, late, depending on the season. So I remember trips to Tijuana, one in particular. Okay, so maybe he had one reason to be embarrassed. Sean insisted that since we were in Tijuana, I was going to get boots, but I wanted thigh-high boots, you know, like that went over the calf, like just high enough, you know. Oh my God, you guys. So I was hell-bent on getting these boots, these ones that went up to here. And there was one with laces that I didn't really like those. So anyway, but what I do remember, my takeaway from Tijuana at that time was when you were outside of Tijuana Metro, whatever that was considered then, and you were on the outskirts, it was poverty like I've never seen in my life. Like I had never seen in my life. And I just won't go into what it looked like, but it was pretty horrifying to see the conditions of the people that were living just on the outskirts of Tijuana. No, I never forgot those. I still to this day, I can see that ride out of the left side of the back seat of his BMW. I'll never forget it. So Ensenada, so then there's the cabin, and then there's two other places. One was like this kind of flat, boring, like again on the beach, was always fun. I remember like we went to the beach once and we were getting in the car and I said something about maybe not having enough time at the beach, or I wish we could still whatever. And he's like, you know, if we had, you saying that, I mean, you just wasted your time doing that. The man was unhinged. And this was the oppressive nature of these trips. We were in Tijuana once, and it's very hectic, selling candy to you, and everyone, kind of all over selling things to you and giving you things. And I remember walking down the street, and this gentleman came up and tried to give me a pigeon. Why I like to, I don't know, to have it, to touch it, pet it, I don't know what. And I wasn't reaching for it, but the guy came to me with this pigeon, and my stepfather goes, Sean, if you touch that bird, I will unlive you. Well, obviously I didn't touch the pigeon. And then another trip to Ensenada, which is just like, they were all nightmares. Like when I had to know that we were going on these seasonal trips to Ensenada, it was like, my heart would just sink, My stepbrother and my stepsister got off easy. They only went to like Ensenada, and I don't even remember them when I was in TJ, but they must have been, because they were dragged down there too. We were dragged up to Mammoth by my stepfather, because he loved skiing and he always had the latest BMW and whatever. So we're again in Ensenada, and then it becomes, of course, the usual again problem. Everything is a problem. Everything is a friggin' problem. It was just like 10 years of problems with this guy. Life was horrible and bitter. And anyway, those of you who have the book will get the idea in those 4 pages. So, and then on the way home, on like the third trip of Ensenada, from through, up back to TJ, then we had to stay in another this was, I guess, upscale compared to most of the places he was like dragging us to in Baja. And I just remember this hotel, it must have been built out of terracotta because every single thing was terracotta, everything, the tables, the pots, the walls. And he is screeching, as he did in Hong Kong, which I'll tell you about next week, that we have to share the same room. That was always like a big deal, to save money. I had to be in there. See, my stepfather just would rather have me not existed, to just be with my mother for 15 years or whatever, and just me not be there. I always had to meet these, like, we're going to do a double feature on our trip to China. Oh my God, what I had to go through just to be able to go. And so the terracotta hotel, and he's having a fit because it's like, what y'all gonna do? It's like one night, give me a break. We're on our way back out of this hell. I mean, I love Ensenada, and I'm sure Tijuana is very nice now, but get me home. So then we made it through that nightmare. There were other things like of us having to share a room like in Hong Kong. Anyway, so unfortunately my trips down there on the outer outskirts of Mexico were not that well, they were remarkable. They just weren't pleasant. I wish I could just go back and just not see it that way. Not that that's really kind of seeing it, but so I survived that whole marriage. I survived the seasonal trips to south of the border and up in Mammoth, and they were just seasonal nightmares. What can I say? But I will tell you, though, that it is quite unfortunate that I didn't know one thing, having gone on these trips with my stepsister, my stepbrother, John and Chris, that, they got out of those once or twice. And I ran across a letter in my garage about a week ago, a few weeks ago. And like with my dad's birth certificate, I found a letter that my stepsister wrote me in 1976, warning me about my stepfather, her father, like going into detail. This is what you need to be prepared for. This is what to expect. This is what I went through. And I never got that letter. My mother had hid it from me until I ran across it right behind my dad's birth certificate. Wow, if I had been warned. Life, I don't know. But anyway, I would have had heads up at least before I headed to Ensenada. So that's my nightmarish vacays with them. And we won't even go into what my mother was like on those trips. But I hope you enjoyed this evening or found it interesting, remarkable. And I got a couple of really fun things coming up. A couple of double features and a couple of, try to switch it up. Something on the serious side, something on the fun side, and whatever. So I love you guys. What can I say? I always do. I adore you for sharing this time for me, to come up here and just be in my loft and just talk to y'all in my living room, like you were in my living room. Okay, take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.